Commander James Hawthorne was used to danger. As an elite pilot for Earth's interstellar fleet, he had survived perilous missions in the darkest corners of the galaxy. But as his ship, Nova's Grace, plummeted toward the surface of an uncharted planet, he could only grip the control panel and shout into the chaos. All systems failing. AI, stabilize thrusters. The AI's voice was calm, almost unnervingly so. Stabilization protocols not responding. Brace for impact. The last thing James saw before everything went black was the ground rushing toward him in a kaleidoscope of alien colors. James woke to the hiss of cooling metal and the acrid stench of burnt circuitry. His body ached, but the suit's automedical systems had already injected him with painkillers. He blinked and surveyed his surroundings. His ship, once a gleaming marvel of human engineering, was now a broken shell, scattered across a verdant alien landscape. The world around him was surreal. The sky shimmered with hues of purple and gold, and massive bioluminescent trees stretched toward the heavens. The ground beneath him was soft and spongy, covered in a thick moss that glowed faintly underfoot. A series of strange, melodic sounds echoed through the air. Alien birdsong, perhaps? James activated his suit's scanners. Atmosphere, breathable. Temperature, 72 degrees Fahrenheit. Gravity, Earth normal. Well, at least there's that, he muttered, retrieving a small emergency pack from the wreckage. He checked his communicator. It was fried. The ship's beacon was functional but weak, and there was no guarantee anyone would pick up the signal in this uncharted sector. As he surveyed the area, his eyes caught movement in the distance. Figures. Humanoid, but unmistakably alien. They moved cautiously, their forms partially obscured by the dense foliage. James tensed, his hand instinctively hovering near his holstered sidearm. The figures emerged from the jungle. They were humanoid but not human, taller and more slender, with skin that glimmered like liquid opal. Their eyes were large and expressive, their irises shifting colors as they focused on James. Most striking of all were their appendages, webbed, translucent structures on their hands and feet that fluttered as if sensing the environment. The group consisted entirely of young females, their expressions a mix of curiosity and apprehension. One stepped forward, her posture hesitant but not threatening. Her voice, when she spoke, was halting and high-pitched, a strange mix of clicks and trills that quickly resolved into English, thanks to James's suit's translator. "Who are you?" James raised his hands, palms up, in what he hoped was a universal gesture of peace. "My name is Commander James Hawthorne. I'm a human from a planet called Earth. My ship crashed here." The girl tilted her head, her iridescent eyes studying him intently. She turned to the others and spoke in rapid, unintelligible clicks. They murmured among themselves before one of them, a slightly taller figure with a shimmering crest atop her head, nodded. "You must come," the first girl said, her voice trembling slightly. "The elders will want to see you." James hesitated. His training told him to be cautious, but he had little choice. He was alone, stranded, and in need of allies. "Lead the way," he said. The journey through the jungle was mesmerizing. The alien vegetation pulsed with light, responding to the presence of the girls as if alive. Strange creatures flitted through the canopy, some resembling insects, others entirely indescribable. James noted everything, his mind racing with the implications of this ecosystem. Finally, they arrived at a clearing dominated by massive crystalline structures that seemed to grow naturally from the ground. The village was a breathtaking mix of organic and geometric, with homes carved directly into the crystal spires. James was struck by how primitive it seemed, yet there was an elegance to its design. The girls led him to a central chamber, where holographic projections flickered into existence. These were the elders, or at least, the remnants of them. The holograms depicted alien beings far more aged and regal than the girls. Their faces were solemn, and their words came in fragmented phrases. Human, unexpected, crash, disruption. James stepped forward. I mean no harm. My ship malfunctioned. I'm just trying to survive. The holograms flickered and spoke again, their tone cryptic. Help needed. Teach. Protect. Before James could question further, the projections vanished, leaving him alone with the alien girls. They looked at him expectantly, their inexperience and youth evident in their uncertain expressions. The tallest among them stepped forward. We are not skilled, she admitted. The elders left us with little knowledge. But you are different. You can help us. James sighed, the weight of the situation settling on him. He was stranded on an alien planet with no way to contact home and surrounded by a group of inexperienced young aliens who seemed to believe he was their savior. All right, he said finally. First things first, we'll need to fix my ship. If you can help me gather resources, I'll teach you what I know. The girls nodded eagerly, their iridescent eyes shining with newfound hope. James couldn't help but smile. This was going to be a challenge, but for now, it was one he was ready to face. James followed the alien girls through the luminous jungle, the environment more surreal with each passing step. The bioluminescent vines hanging from towering crystalline trees seemed to hum faintly, a symphony of energy pulsing through the ecosystem. The air was thick with strange floral scents, and peculiar creatures flitted between the foliage, their translucent bodies glowing like fireflies. Despite the awe-inspiring surroundings, James's thoughts were practical. His ship's wreckage was several kilometers away, and his chances of survival hinged on the cooperation of these aliens. They were young and seemingly inexperienced, but they moved through the jungle with confidence, their strange webbed appendages fluttering in rhythm with their steps. We are here, said the tallest of the girls, gesturing toward the horizon. James froze in place as the alien village came into view. The settlement was built into massive crystalline spires that jetted from the ground like colossal quartz formations. The crystals reflected the sunlight, creating a dazzling display of rainbows that danced across the landscape. Homes were carved into the crystal faces, their openings smooth and geometric, giving the structures an air of both simplicity and elegance. The girls led James into the heart of the village, where the activity came to an abrupt halt. Dozens of young aliens emerged, their eyes wide with curiosity and apprehension. James noticed there were no older figures, only girls who all seemed around the same developmental age. Where are the adults? James asked, his tone cautious. The tallest girl, who had begun to emerge as their de facto leader, responded hesitantly. Gone, long ago. We only have the elders. James raised an eyebrow. The holograms? She nodded. The elders, they guide us, but they do not stay. They are memories, not people. James frowned. A civilization ruled by the faint echoes of its ancestors was a precarious situation. He had no time to dwell on the implications before the leader motioned toward the center of the village. The central chamber of the village was dominated by a circular platform made of the same shimmering crystal as the spires. James watched as the girls activated the platform, their hands glowing faintly as they touched its surface. In response, a series of holographic figures materialized. The holograms were ethereal and ancient-looking, with long, flowing garments and regal expressions. They regarded James with solemn intensity, their eyes flickering with intelligence but devoid of emotion. Their voices, though distorted and fragmented, were clear enough to convey their message. Human, a visitor to our world. Unexpected. A disruption to balance. James stepped forward. I don't want to disrupt anything. I just want to survive. My ship crashed, and I need help to repair it. The holograms flickered, as if considering his words. Your presence may aid survival. Teach. Protect. Protect from what? James asked, his instincts on high alert. The holograms offered no clarification. Instead, they dissolved into light, leaving James alone with the alien girls. As the day wore on, James began to understand the challenges facing the village. The girls were eager and intelligent, but woefully unprepared for the responsibilities of governing their world. Basic concepts like tool-making, resource management, and even agriculture were foreign to them. They had relied on the planet's natural abundance, but James could see signs that this abundance was beginning to falter. He began with simple tasks. Using his portable toolkit, he demonstrated how to craft a basic filtration device to purify water from a nearby stream. The girls watched intently, their eyes sparkling with wonder. Leora, the tallest and most inquisitive of the group, stepped forward. "You know many things. Can we learn?" James smiled. "That's the idea. If we work together, we can do more than just survive. We can thrive." The following days were a whirlwind of activity. James taught the girls how to identify and harvest materials for repairs to his ship while also introducing them to fundamental engineering principles. Their alien physiology gave them unique advantages. Leora and others could manipulate the crystalline structures of their village by singing to them, causing the crystals to resonate and reshape themselves. James was fascinated by their abilities. "You have a connection to this planet," he observed. "It's like it's alive, and you're a part of it." Leora nodded. "The crystals, they listen, but only a little. We do not know how to speak to them fully." James filed that information away. Perhaps their connection to the planet could be harnessed for more advanced projects. One evening, as James worked on a damaged thruster from his ship, Leora approached him hesitantly. "Your world," she asked, "is it like this one?" James paused, his hand stilling over the thruster. "No," he said after a moment. "Earth is different. It's beautiful in its own way, but it's crowded, complicated. People fight over resources, over ideas. It's not as peaceful as this." Leora's eyes shifted, reflecting the ambient light. "You came here, by choice?" "No," James admitted. "This was an accident. But now that I'm here, I feel like maybe it wasn't random. Maybe I was meant to help you." Leora tilted her head, considering his words. "The elders say we must protect our world. But we do not know from what." James's expression darkened. "We'll figure it out. Together." As the night fell, James looked out over the village, its crystalline spires glowing softly in the moonlight. He was no longer a visitor, he was part of this place now. And as the stars shimmered above, he resolved to see his mission through, no matter the cost. The next morning, the village hummed with activity. The once passive alien girls were now fully engaged, eager to learn everything James could teach them. James worked tirelessly, drawing on his training and experience to impart knowledge that was practical yet foundational. "Start with the basics," he said, crouching beside a group of girls near a pile of scavenged materials. "This is a lever. It's simple but powerful. With it, you can lift things far heavier than you are." The girls watched as he demonstrated, their iridescent eyes wide with wonder. Leora, ever curious, eagerly imitated him. Her attempt was clumsy but earnest, and James couldn't help but smile. "You're getting it," he said, adjusting her grip. "Now apply steady pressure." With a soft grunt of effort, Leora lifted a heavy crystalline shard using the lever. Her companions clapped and chirped in delight, their voices blending into a harmonious melody. James stepped back and surveyed the group. "You're quick learners. That's good, because we've got a lot of work to do." Harnessing the crystals as the days passed, James began to incorporate the aliens' unique abilities into their projects. The crystalline structures that formed the core of their village were more than just homes, they were alive in some strange, enigmatic way. The girls could sing to the crystals, causing them to vibrate and reshape themselves. James saw potential in this ability. "Let's see if we can channel this into something useful," he said one morning, gathering the group near a large crystal formation. "These crystals seem to store energy. If we can figure out how to extract and control that energy, it could power my ship and maybe your entire village. Leora nodded. We have tried, but we do not understand how to use the energy. It is wild. Then we'll tame it, James replied with a grin. Through trial and error, James and the girls developed a rudimentary energy harvester. Leora and 2 others would sing at a specific frequency, causing the crystal to release energy in controlled bursts. James rigged a converter to capture and stabilize the energy, which he used to recharge his tools. It wasn't perfect. One misstep caused an energy surge that singed his eyebrows, but it was progress. The first crisis, not everything went smoothly. One afternoon, as the group worked on constructing a makeshift generator, a low rumble echoed through the village. The ground trembled, and a section of the crystalline spires cracked and fell. Panic erupted as the girls scattered, their songs turning into frightened screeches. James sprinted toward the source of the disturbance. A fissure had opened in the ground, and strange, serpentine shapes writhed within it. They were biomechanical creatures, their segmented bodies glowing with an eerie light. They clawed at the edges of the fissure, trying to escape. "Stay back!" James shouted, pulling his plasma cutter from his belt. The girls hesitated, their wide eyes fixed on him. One of the creatures lunged, and James fired, the plasma beam severing its body. The other creatures recoiled but did not retreat. They seemed to be assessing the situation, their glowing eyes fixating on the group. "Leora, get everyone to safety," James ordered. "I'll hold them off." Leora hesitated, her webbed hands trembling. "We cannot leave you, Dash." "Go!" James barked, firing another shot to emphasize his point. Reluctantly, Leora and the others fled, their songs fading into the distance. James stood his ground, his heart pounding. He had faced danger before, but there was something unsettling about these creatures, something almost intelligent in the way they moved. After a tense standoff, the creatures withdrew into the fissure, leaving James shaken but unharmed. He inspected the area and found faint traces of energy signatures matching those of the crystals. A grim revelation. That evening, James gathered the girls in the central chamber. The holographic elders flickered into view, their expressions unreadable. "The creatures," James said, his tone urgent. "What are they?" The elders hesitated before answering. "Remnants of the cataclysm. Machines created for war. Their purpose, destruction." James's stomach tightened. "And you didn't think to warn anyone?" The holograms flickered again, their voices fragmented. "Dormant until disturbed. Your arrival, a catalyst." James clenched his fists. He had suspected his crash might have triggered something, but hearing it confirmed was a bitter pill to swallow. "We must act," Leora said, her voice steady despite the fear in her eyes. "If they wake fully, they will destroy everything." James nodded. "Agreed. We'll need to fortify the village and find a way to shut them down for good." The turning point. The days that followed were grueling. James trained the girls to build defenses, using the energy-harnessing crystals to create barriers and weapons. Leora and her companions proved to be quick learners, their fear giving way to determination. During one particularly long night, James and Leora worked side by side on a crystal amplifier designed to disrupt the creature's systems. Leora glanced at him, her expression thoughtful. "You have given us hope," she said softly. "Before you came, we did not believe we could change our fate." James smiled, though his face was weary. "You had it in you all along. I'm just helping you see it." As the first light of dawn broke over the horizon, the amplifier hummed to life, its crystalline core glowing with power. It was far from perfect, but it was a start. For the first time since his arrival, James felt a spark of optimism. They were far from out of danger, but together, they had a fighting chance. And for now, that was enough. The ground rumbled ominously beneath the crystalline village, sending ripples of anxiety through its inhabitants. James stood at the edge of the fissure where the biomechanical creatures had first emerged. The strange, serpentine machines had begun to stir more frequently, their glowing eyes visible through the cracks in the ground. "They're becoming more active," James said grimly, addressing Leora and the gathered group of alien girls. "We don't have much time." The village had transformed over the past weeks. With James's guidance, the girls had constructed defensive barriers and makeshift weaponry powered by the planet's resonant crystals. The amplifier, their greatest invention, stood in the center of the village, a beacon of hope and a tool of immense power. But James knew it would take more than hope to survive the coming battle. Preparing for the battle, the air buzzed with tension as the village prepared for the inevitable. James moved among the girls, offering words of encouragement and last-minute instructions. He stopped beside Leora, who was adjusting a crystal-powered energy lance. "You've done great work," James said, his voice steady despite the looming danger. "Are you ready for this?" Leora met his gaze, her iridescent eyes reflecting determination. "We must be ready. If we fail, there will be nothing left." James nodded. He could see the fear behind her resolve, but she had grown into a leader in these weeks. The other girls looked to her for guidance, and she did not waver. The first wave of the attack began at dusk. The ground split open with a deafening roar, and the biomechanical creatures surged forth, their segmented bodies writhing with unnatural grace. Their metallic exoskeletons shimmered in the fading light, and their glowing eyes radiated an eerie intelligence. "Hold your positions," James shouted, his voice cutting through the chaos. The defensive barriers lit up as the creatures made contact, repelled by the pulsating energy fields. The girls sang in unison, their harmonies resonating with the crystals and amplifying the barrier's strength. Leora led the chorus, her voice clear and commanding. James fired his plasma cutter at the advancing creatures, his aim precise. The energy lance Leora wielded proved just as effective, slicing through the creature's armor with ease. The girls' newfound confidence shone as they held their ground, their once clumsy movements now precise and deliberate. A turning point despite their efforts, the creatures continued to pour from the fissures. For every one they destroyed, two more seemed to take its place. The ground beneath the amplifier trembled as the largest fissure yet began to open. James raced to the device, his heart pounding. "Leora, we need to activate the pulse now, or we're finished." Leora and two other girls joined him, their hands glowing as they interfaced with the crystals. The amplifier began to hum, its core glowing brighter with each passing second. James adjusted the controls, fine-tuning the pulse to match the creature's energy signatures. "It's ready," he shouted. "Everyone, fall back." The girls retreated to the safety of the barriers as James and Leora activated the amplifier. A powerful wave of energy radiated outward, the air shimmering with its intensity. The creatures froze mid-attack, their bodies convulsing as the pulse disrupted their programming. For a moment, it seemed the tide had turned. But the largest of the creatures, a massive, serpent-like machine, emerged from the main fissure, seemingly unaffected by the pulse. James's stomach dropped. "The pulse isn't strong enough. We need more power." The final stand. Leora stepped forward, her expression resolute. "I will amplify the pulse. You must guide it." James's eyes widened. "That's too dangerous. The energy could dash." "There is no choice," she interrupted, her voice firm. "This is our home. I will not let it fall." Before James could protest further, Leora began to sing, her voice resonating with a frequency he had never heard before. The crystals responded instantly, glowing so brightly that the entire village was bathed in light. The amplifier surged, its energy output doubling. "James, now!" Leora shouted, her voice strained but unwavering. James adjusted the controls, directing the amplified energy toward the serpent-like creature. The wave struck it head-on, its body convulsing violently. The other creatures fell one by one, their systems overloaded by the pulse. Finally, with a deafening screech, the serpent collapsed, its glowing eyes flickering and going dark. The ground stopped trembling, and an eerie silence settled over the village. A new dawn. The village erupted in cheers as the girls embraced one another, their songs turning into joyous melodies. James stumbled to Leora's side, his legs weak with exhaustion. "You did it," he said, his voice filled with awe. "We did it." Leora smiled faintly, her glow dim but steady. "Our world is safe. For now." James looked out over the village, now bathed in the soft light of dawn. The battle had left scars both on the land and its people, but it had also forged something stronger. The girls were no longer inexperienced children, they were survivors, ready to face whatever challenges lay ahead. As James turned his gaze to the horizon, he felt a sense of belonging he hadn't known in years. He wasn't just a visitor anymore, he was part of this world, bound by the bond they had forged in the fires of adversity. "Let's get to work," he said, a faint smile on his lips. "There's a lot to rebuild." Leora nodded, her eyes shining with determination. Together, they would build a future for this world, one of hope, resilience, and harmony.